And today we are going to hear his thoughts on Hultsfred Festival, aspects of development and challenges for a local festival. Please welcome Jonas Bja.
All right, this is like a little more than 25 years of history that I'm in 45 minutes will try to get some kind of picture of. And then we're going to have a discussion about things around festivals. How many of you are working with festivals in some way? That's good. How many of you have visited a festival? All right, that's good. Then you're going to recognize a lot of the things I'm going to talk about, perhaps. All right. This is when it all started in Hultsfred. It was in 1986, and this is the poster of the first festival. So, and here are some other posters from different years of the festival. And it was running from 1986 until 2010, then it went bankrupt. Then FKP Scorpio, a big independent festival promoter, entered Sweden. And Hultsfred was their first festival. They bought the brand from the bankrupt organization in Hultsfred. So they ran the festival for 2 years. Then last summer, they moved the festival to another place in the central parts of Sweden, outside a town called Sigtuna, and they kept the name, and that was a lot of controversy around this, because a lot of people have invested a lot of feelings in this festival at this specific place, so that was a lot of discussions then. Is it possible to move a festival and move everything else with it? So that's maybe a thing. I'm not going to talk that much about that now, but we can discuss that later. So out from this festival, we built a lot of things in Hultsfred, starting in the beginning of the 2000s. And it's similar to this building in several ways, because since a lot of these people starting working with the festival, I'm going back to that later, wanted to still live in this tiny place. Hultsfred is just 5,000 people living there. They needed to do other things. You can't just survive on doing the festival. So they started trying to find other ways. And this is part of what they managed to do, or we managed to do. We started a rookie festival. It's a showcase festival on established artists and businesses. Popkollo is a kind of a summer camp for young girls playing instruments, creating bands, playing music, writing music. Girls 12 to 16, something like that. That's also an idea that's been exported to other places in Sweden, so now it's a network in the whole part of Sweden. Actually a thing that I think maybe should be exported to other countries too. Then we have Music Link. It was a development kind of company into the web design, education, research. A lot about the new digital music industry. We had an event production education, an industrial center for the Swedish music industry. The Swedish Rock archives are there, and some other stuff. And a lot of these things disappeared when the festival went bankrupt in 2010. So this is kind of the goal, or the thing that we try to build in Hultsfred. Through the association, I'll come back to Rock Party, the music association, the Hultsfred Festival and Rock City, trying to create a creative meeting place for the music and experience industry through social networking. Here's just a picture from the building where we were at. So this is a lot of my students. And this is where Hultsfred is, situated in the southeast part of Sweden, close to Vimmerby, Hasse Lindgren's world, if anyone's been there. This is also an area where you have all the glass manufacturers in Sweden and so on. We have Öland, that's a kind of a tourist destination. But it all started in the 80s. So late 1970s, rock and roll era started in Hultsfred. And this is a time when a lot of young people all over Sweden promote concerts and music and culture associations in the beginning of the 80s. And this is in some kind of way, the reason for this is that the punk movement, the punk music, and the do-it-yourself kind of ideology is entering, and is people thinking, all right, we can play music, we can do this ourselves. So in 1981, there's a foundation, a non-profit voluntary music association starts in Hultsfred called Rock Party. And a lot of these music associations are actually connecting to an old network of music associations in Sweden that were formed in the progressive music era of Sweden, the kind of political progressive music movement in Sweden. I don't know if you have the similar thing in Finland, but I think so. It was a lot of, like, the music was very political in the 70s. And all these a lot of these people started venues, or Musikens Hus, a place to have rehearsals and concerts and meeting places and so on. They also started distribution networks. Actually, they created some kind of independent music economy, commercial music economy, that was differed a lot from what their political standpoints were about, non-commercial and so on. But the paradox here is that they actually started something that we still are fortunate enough to have today in Sweden, a network and some kind of alternative music economy. So, and in '82, the first year they moved around a lot in Hultsfred in different spaces and had concerts. The first concert were too crowded, too loud, especially for the local authorities. So they were not welcome back to this local youth center, so the association needed a public space, a place of their own. So they made a demonstration. All these young people at the school went out on the streets wearing these banners. And in Hultsfred, you just demonstrate on the 1st of May. That's the thing. So it was something that really was strange in the local community. And they went up to the local authority, kommunstyrelsemöte, and they handed over 2,000 signatures, appeals in a petition, and this made a significant impact on the order of local political and everyday life. And actually, and that's also a way of being creative. These 2,000 signatures were done like this. They used a telephone book, and you just saw the persons there, and you knew that they were supporting this thing, so you just put their name on this list. This is a way of, it's much easier to do it that way. So, and this is the venue that they got. It's called Klubben, and where it's all started, a sacred place and the birthplace of this association. And before they managed to get their hands on this, it was a battle with the local home defense that also wanted this. So you can see the media headlines, the battle of the final battle, and so on. But the politically correct way was actually to give the young people this kind of place, since they, from early on, were very keen on, very visual in the local community, and they made a lot of concerts. And this is just some pictures of these kind of networks of organizations, alternative kind of this distribution network and this organization network that was created in the 60s with a lot of educational organizations too that supported this kind of concert houses and Musikens Hus and so on. So that's been an important aspect of the success of Hultsfred. But most of it anyway is about the myths and the bands and the concerts and so on. This is a concert that's been put in the mythological telling of the Hultsfred story very much. It's back on Theatre of Hate. I don't know if anyone knows about them. They were later becoming Spear of Destiny, but they were a concert hall. It was a sport arena, sporthall in Hultsfred that was, someone said it was a bomb there, so they had to evacuate the whole, during the concert, and then they continued the concert outside. So how do we survive in Hultsfred? this was the important things to start with, to be part of the local community, to include a lot of people that are maybe not the first one you think about when it comes to being part of these kind of concerts and festivals and so on. Parents, local businessmen try to convince politicians about this, and this is, I think, the way to go if you will be able to create something like this at a small place. The thing in Hultsfred though was that there was a lot of resistance towards this, and it was like classical things about this dreadful popular music that was not serious, and you can't really build business around this and so on. I think you recognize this from debates and discussions in Finland too. So, and part of being part of the local community is to create the networks all around, both locally but also in the region and nationally. And to build a strong social and culture capital. And social and culture capital are actually scientific kind of concepts, but social capital is about the networks, the social relations, and building trust in these kind of relations. And that was also a thing that this association was kind of good at, creating, talking to people in the right way when they needed. They were both this rebellious kind of punk movement that was screaming at everything and against everything, but at the same time they were also very good at negotiating with local authorities in different ways. So this way of being some kind of chameleon kind of identity where you change your strategies all the time, that could be also a very good way of surviving. And the culture capital is about credibility, actually, becoming competent and know what kind of music you should book at your festival or at your venues. And Rock Party became part of this kind of alternative music association network. So that was really important for them. And also to build the activities both around culture or music as a culture expression, with all that comes with that about credibility, not being mainstream, avant-garde and so on, but also business. To do things that you don't like that much maybe in this association, like having a Swedish dance band during your concert nights, but also that made it possible for other people to attend, or you could attract other kind of people, and then you also had the bands that you wanted to have. And doing more music, more festivals, more activities in general. Maybe you're familiar with this kind of model that's talked about in the music industry, the 360 degrees model, trying to find revenue streams wherever you can find them today. This is kind of the same version of that, but trying to find, having networks, having connections, and doing things with a lot of different people on different levels. So it's about this. And this is the local punk band Sinnesfrid. But it's also about this, and I think you recognize this from if you work with festivals. Both maybe kind of the music, the young alternative music, and then also parents include the local network of different kind of associations, sports and whatever, and parents. So this is one family where both mother and father and the son and the daughter, actually she's not in the picture, were working with the festival. In my family, my father was counting money for the festival, my mother helped my sister catering on one of the stages, and I was there doing research or a lot of things. So that's the thing that's kind of similar for a lot of other families during the festival days. So it's just some picture of voluntary work. And actually these kind of things that created a lot of strong community among the people working with the festival in their different sections they were working with. This is the transport group that handle all the transportation during the festival, and they send out this Christmas card. So it's a lot of the people that I interviewed that work with the festival. The main thing was not the music of the festival. It was working together, creating some kind of community, something else. It has some other values than the content of the festival, actually. There's one guy who once said that, oh, it's fabulous, it's marvelous with this festival if it wasn't for that bloody music. And I think that says a lot for a lot of people actually working with the festival. It's a lot of things except for the music. And this is also a thing that they did a lot, the cooperation with the different cultural associations and organizations in the local community. And it gave Rock Party status and a position as a serious music and cultural association, both locally and in the region. So they made these kind of punk concerts and alternative music that has and were connected in a kind of a national scene, trans-local network of music scenes in Sweden. And at the same time they did a jazz night, they did a cafe, they did some kind of exhibitions maybe or something. They had this Lucia celebration. I don't know if you have that in Finland, it's kind of big in Sweden. They had this Lucia gala with everything from fashion show to Europe playing and some local punk bands and the version of a lot of things. That's actually a picture of this Lucia gala. It says nykter Lucia gala, sober, but I can assure you it was not that sober. It was just to get funds, you know, from different parts of the society. So they were not that. It was not that important to get into this. They also started a record shop and so on, where they had an office for the music association. They also sold records there. So it was kind of a different parts that became kind of businesses. This is also a thing. MCH for the local bikers were a youth problem that Rockport took care of with the local authorities' approval and support. So instead of beating these punks, they were supporting and they were working and they got some money for their own association, the Bikers Club. And you get maybe some association to Altamont when you see this picture on a local level. This is also an important thing with the network building. Here's the Minister of Culture in 1990 visiting the Folkets Park in Hultsfred. I think you have the same kind of Folkets Park in Finland too, don't you? Some kind of amusement parks that the Social Democratic Working Union or the movement created in the 30s and 40s. And this continues. It's a lot of concerts. Hultsfred became a regional music center. People were traveling from the whole region to come there to see concerts and so on. And the festival has been going on for 5-6 years, and it's time to, in some kind of way, transform this, broaden a lot of aspects to. So they started to transform this old car dealer building to a concert hall. And I heard that this was postcards that were actually stored in this building. Similar thing. So they started to tear down the roof and they built a tire for concerts. And they bought this old bus from, I don't know if it's an English bus, just to have a transport for people from the railway station up to this concert hall. And this continues. It's a lot of concerts there. They start building more and more activities. So the next step in some kind of way was in the end of the 90s. There was a possibilities to apply for money to build projects, European Union money. So this is a project that actually started in 97. They created a lot of different companies, or people could apply for money through this money that Rock Party had from the European Union. So there was a lot of people starting small businesses. a lot of these are not there anymore, but it was actually in some kind of way the start, the seed of something growing. And all this was actually, I'm going a little bit back and forth in history here, the festival starts in '86, but all these things are in some kind of way the foundation for the festival. Everything is growing, a lot of concerts, it becomes a regional kind of center for music. So the festival is a natural kind of step in '86, and the festival is also the thing that is famous, that Hultsfred is famous for, and it's been the motor of a lot of other activities. But in some way also the thing that might have been the reason why a lot of other activities disappeared. And a lot of other activities, the reason why they disappeared could also be the festival. So here's once again the networking and so on. Here's a guy who moved to Hultsfred, becoming a dentist just because of the rock party and the festival. Because when he finished here his dentist studies, he could go wherever he liked in Sweden actually. They were screaming for dentists. But he chose Hultsfred for the festival. And up to the left is one guy called Johan T. Karlsson. It's called Familjen. It's kind of famous band in Sweden, or an artist. And he also studied for a while in Hultsfred, started his career as a musician there, and so on. Sahara Hot Nights, mixing drinks, and another meeting with a Minister of Culture. So in some way, the Hultsfred Festival and Hultsfred became a national example of how you can build things in a region, in a remote kind of place in the country. And it became a national example of what young people can make. And the Hultsfred Festival became the main spot of gathering of young people during summertime or during the year round. So it was politically correct in some kind of way for a lot of politicians to attend the festival too. So here are some of them. The Minister of Culture inaugurated a newly renovated club. Gudrun Schyman, a party leader for the left-wing party in Sweden at the festival. Mona Sahlin, party leader for the Social Democrats, as she used to be. And the former Minister of Culture smoked a cigar with a unfortunately late Lou Reed, passed away some months ago. At least I think it's a cigar he's smoking. Looks like maybe something else. Here's also a thing with networking. That's me together with one pop star, Joppe Pilgrim from Docenterna, the chairman of Rock Party. One guy working with the finance for the festival. It's a lot of students. It's one guy working for Dynamic Duo here. It's one of the main production companies when it comes to produce the big stages of the festivals in Sweden. But anyway, this is from the promoter's perspective. The festival, the heart of the festival in Hultsfred is maybe somewhere and something else too. And this is what it looks like. It's an old picture from the 90s from one of the main stages in Hultsfred. Has anyone been at the Hultsfred Festival here? No. Have you heard about it? Yes, okay, that's good. And maybe you recognize this kind of festival live. Camping ground. This actually looks like a refugee camp in some kind of way. You can change this picture from somewhere else maybe. And this is a very important part of the myths and the telling and the stories and the feeling that people have for this kind of festival. It was a traditional kind of camping festival with a very, very kind of hard life to live in this mess you can see here. And that was the thing that the festival promoter, the Music Association, Rock Party, used as their main kind of branding of this festival, that it was for the hardcore fans and so on. So, some other pictures. The one to the upper right there is picture. It's seldom been kind of muddy at the Hultsfred Festival, but still this is an image that a lot of festivals use. This is kind of the memory of how a festival should be. It's from the Woodstock more or less. So a lot of, when the stories about festivals and the images and so on is often created through mud in some kind of way. That's interesting. These kind of camps is also very important in the feeling and the telling of the festival and the memories of it and why people attend the festival. To sit in these kind of camps. The picture to the right here is from like 86, 87, and that's from 2002, and it's the same kind of living. It's hard to find your way at the festival, and it's a lot of things to carry. Woodstock. This is the kind of the image that, at least for the Hultsfred Festival and for a lot of other festivals that started in the 80s in Sweden, this was the role model in some kind of way, the image of how the festival should be created. But that's also a thing we might discuss later on. Is this disappearing now, the traditional kind of, this kind of festivals that has its history based in some kind of way in the Woodstock? This was early on the role model for Hultsfred when it comes to organize the festival, the lineup and so on. Not that big artists maybe, but a smaller version in some kind of way of Roskilde Festival. So when I was growing up in Hultsfred, we had like 3 buses going to Roskilde Festival from Hultsfred, and everyone that was part of the association more or less went to Roskilde, and the ones that were working with the association were there studying what they did and how they did it, and met the people, promoters of the Roskilde festival. And we handed out flyers and put up posters. So we heard rumors that there were actually people, voluntary people in the Roskilde staff, that their main thing to do was to put down all the posters that Hultsfred Festival put up. I don't know about that, but we put up a lot of them. That was when the Hultsfred Festival from 86 to 1995 were in August. And later on it moved to end of June. This is actually a slide that I took from the festival promoters when they were marketing the festival towards sponsors and convincing them why they should invest in the Hultsfred Festival. So Hultsfred is one of the few real festivals done by and for hardcore fans and enthusiasts in common fellowship. During Hultsfred, the visitors build a different and specific community where they live together for 3 to 6 days. And the image of the tent here is the thing I talked about. This is kind of a hard kind of living. It's not everyone that's suited for this kind of festivals, or this kind of festival life. And Hultsfred, this is maybe the most important thing. Hultsfred enable meetings between young people that are early birds and trendsetters. So, and that's, Hultsfred has, at least was in the 90s, very much a testing ground for lifestyle-oriented companies and brands, and they tested their products there, and they wanted the people the festival visitors to carry their brand, and in that way some kind of invest some kind of coolness into their brands. And I think that's continuing with other kind of festivals. There's a lot of brands that are very keen on being part of this festival crowd. It depends, of course, what kind of festival it is, but still. Oh, there's the muddy picture again. Censored. So this is kind of also the important part of the hardcore living in this kind of muddy environment. Used also by the promoters to try to find sponsors. There's also a picture saying something about, and that's important, as I said before, that the association always balanced between being kind of alternative culture, alternative music, and business, attracting people that were not necessarily connected to this kind of alternative music or interested in it and so on. So very early on they tried during the festival to have some acts that were more appealing towards the voluntary staff, the local voluntary staff, and not necessarily the kind of alternative-oriented visitors that like that kind of music that you see on the running order there from '92, Popsicle, Stone Capes, Wedding Present, Bo Radleys. This was bands that were important in this early 90s kind of indie pop scene, both in Sweden and Britain. And this down to the left there is a plane landing from London in Hultsfred. We actually have a small airport in Hultsfred. It was built there for military reasons to start with, but there was like civil kind of traffic for a while too. But this was just one plane charter from London to Hultsfred with a lot of English pop stars. So they wrote in the Swedish press that if this was in 92, 93 too. If this plane goes down, the biggest band in Britain is going to be ELO, I think, ELO. So, I don't know. And to the right there you have Nina Persson in Cardigans and some other indie pop, Swedish indie pop stars. This was a meeting place for both the business and for a lot of the music genres. It was like a gathering of the subculture tribes of Sweden in different genres. You had to go to Hultsfred. It was a window for a lot of artists to be known in Sweden, to play at the Hultsfred Festival. It was important for record labels and so on to place their artists in Hultsfred for a while. This changed in 2000. Backstage area, a couple of guys from the Hives, the singer Howlin' Pelle and the drummer Chris Dangerous, you see in the back there, right? There's a friend of mine is booking at the Baser venue in Stockholm, he's also an artist. This is also a balance or a meeting of different things. Here you have gemensam bön för Hultsfredfestivalen. You understand that? A lot of the churches were very concerned about what was happening here. And then you have some locals here looking at strange people at the festival and meeting some of them. There's just a picture of. It's not that easy sometimes for the local community, as you know, to handle all these people coming. So this is the lineup for the ATM machine, for the money machine. This is also kind of part of the local economy. Youngsters selling coffee, saft och bulle. And also a lot of people rented their apartments, their houses and so on to record labels, artists, companies, newspapers, whatever. So that kind of economy also made it possible for a lot of people in Hultsfred to have a very good vacation that summer. But it's also about these myths, legends, tellings about rock stars and so on. That's an important part of the construction of the festival identity. Pete Doherty, who one summer went berserk that summer in Sweden in different ways. There was a lot of, he played at the Hultsfred Festival and no one actually talked about his music or the concert. It was more about how much drugs he brought into Sweden, how many people he was hitting and so on. So that was the thing. But that also sells tickets, festival tickets, and that's important. Another legend star, Rocky Erickson, attending the Hultsfred Festival. And all these sponsors, the brands, that's also a very important part of creating the festival. And this has been everything from the local beer, the local brewery, Åbro, to cars, to this kind of education organizations in Sweden. So it's been like a gathering of a lot of different stakeholders that's also one thing that I think a lot of festivals should think about, the variation of stakeholders that they want to attend, be part of the festival. So everything from the local, from the union, the national union organization, LO, to the camping ground, the everyday life at the camping ground. Some other telenom to protect hearing. So, I have like 5 more minutes. I'm just going to try to conclude some conditions and factors behind the development, why it was successful from '86 until the end of, until 2010 when the festival disappeared. And the festival, when it disappeared, took a lot of other activities and companies with it when it ended in bankruptcy. So I think it's important, or it was important at least, to have this flexibility and balance between ideology and practice. You have your kind of do-it-yourself ideology, punk attitude, rebelliousness, some kind of way, but you need to be practical. You need to cooperate with the people that you are yelling at in some kind of way, that you don't want to be part of the grown-up society or the local authorities and all that kind of boring stuff. So that's the thing, what you're saying and what you're doing, that could be different things, and I think you have to be pragmatic about that. And a very important thing is networking and social capital, this kind of building of networks, but not just knowing a lot of people, but building trust and confidence in these kind of relations. And try to get people to feel that they are part of this, that they are contributing, make a contribution, and so on. And that you're active on many levels and areas, that you're trying to include as many, maybe as possible. And also the things that the local community, the people itself and the place. Sometimes you need some really committed persons, and you need them to be around for a while, for a long time, to create some kind of continuity, that they can, people that are entering the organization and work with it in different ways, need this kind of continuity so you can give them the experience and knowledge and so on over to the next kind of generation. And sometimes, because a lot of people ask and wonder why could we build the, because Hultsfred was considered the mother of all festivals when it started in the 80s. So when it disappeared in 2010, everyone talked about it as the mother of all festivals in Sweden. It was the main festival in the 90s, the only really big festival and so on. And a lot of people wondered why could this happen at this remote, small, tiny place. And that's, you can just turn that around. That's the reason why actually. Because in small places you have a kind of social network that people are, if everyone is part of it, that was not the case in Hultsfred, it was a lot of resistance too, but it's also a lot of people that were part of it. And a lot of people traveling from other parts to be part of it, working with the festival and so on. Because if you want to borrow a truck in the middle of the night, you can just go to this person, this local businessman, to just steal it, borrowing it, because he can't say that much, because everyone will know then that he didn't want them to borrow it, and that will be a kind of a social pressure on this guy or girl if he didn't do that. This kind of cultural capital credibility of being in the forefront, booking and releasing and showing a lot of bands that are upcoming. So people got the feeling of, if you don't go to Hultsfred, you're going to miss something that's going to be big later on. And Hultsfred was kind of good at that, especially in the 90s. So the Oasis first gig outside Great Britain was actually at the Hultsfred Festival. And a lot of Swedish bands started on a very small stage, and next year they were playing maybe on the main stage. Like Kent, they played on this, that Swedish bands, famous in Sweden. And also the Rock Association. REM was booked in Hultsfred in 1984, but they didn't want to pay 10,000 for a totally unknown American band, so they didn't come. And U2 was booked in Hultsfred in 1982, but I think Bono was sick, so they couldn't come. So that's an important thing, the credibility. And the flexibility and balance between this kind of popular and alternative and mainstream and elite, kind of elite popular culture. And this, as I said, a strategic kind of social competence. And the flexibility and balance between the tradition of being like a local music association as every kind of association before, and have that kind of continuity, being very rooted in the local community and still trying to do something else, trying to change something. And one important thing too is luck and coincidence. That's often a thing that people forget about. Sometimes it's just luck and coincidence that different people meet. They have some kind of idea. They develop that kind of idea. But for that to happen, I think you need to have like a meeting place that's very open for a lot of people to be there, taking part of it from different levels of music life and music industry. So, why did it fail? This is the last one. Yes. It's diverse strategies and goals in different ways. Should we just concentrate on the festival, or should we do other things? And that's the thing. It was a very consistent kind of decision that the association did to start with, that every profit from the festival should be invested in other kind of activities. Not just put every money on the bank and just use it for the festival. So that's why they couldn't really take the bad years. There were no money there too. But if they hadn't done that, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't work with a music and event management program that's still in Hultsfred. It's a lot of activities that are still there that wouldn't have been there if the festival if the association had another kind of strategy. Maybe the festival would still be there, but no other kind of activities. So that's the thing you have to think about, what kind of strategy you do. But that's the reason why the festival is not there, I think. This kind of social capital, when it doesn't work, when it creates mistrust and internal kind of power struggles, that's also important, because all these people growing up, working, and have invested so much feelings and heart into these activities, working together, when everything is running smoothly, it's easy. But when it started to go back and or some way doesn't work that well anymore, then it's very hard to change maybe and tell your dear friend that you should maybe do something else. So we really need to have some input of other persons deciding. So as early as that I found when I did my dissertation, my research, I grew up with this, so I have a lot of material, but I have some internal kind of documents where they say in '98 that they have been visiting other festivals, and we can't learn anything from any other festivals. We are the ones that sets the standards, and everyone is borrowing and learning from us. And that's a very dangerous idea to have, and an opinion to have, I think. And the insufficient financial government sometimes was a lot of projects that put money in a lot of projects that didn't really work. And Hultsfred lost its leading position and to some extent its cultural credibility, because in the 90s there was a lot of other festivals starting around in Sweden, and that's also an important thing, the competition. And if you have the idea then that you are still biggest and the best and no one else is as good as I am or we are, then you're going to lose in the end, I think so. So in that sense, some kind of narrow-minded behavior, more competition, as I said. Maybe changing, and I don't know if that's the same thing in Finland, is other kind of festival habits today maybe, and demands. These kind of traditional camping festivals that you make this kind of pilgrimage to, and you live your festival life in this kind of cocoon of your different free zone and world. Maybe that is changing, and people want to have more comfort and so on. They want to go home and and sleep in their own bed and so on. That's a discussion, at least in Sweden. I don't know if it's the same in Finland. So, and the festival as phenomena, in some way, changed from the 80s, 90s. It was more like a subculture gathering of the tribes to a more mainstream phenomena. Now everyone is going to festival. It's not like a subculture kind of statement to go to festival today. It's nothing. It's not that kind of strange that it might have been in the 80s. That's also an important thing. So the festival is dead, long live the festival. So the future, that's a thing I think we should discuss. But just to end with, that's a very interesting thing happening now in Hultsfred actually. It ended in 2010, FKP Scorpio made 2 festivals. They moved the festival to another place, as I said in the beginning, keeping the name, and that was annoying a lot of people in Sweden. And as a response to that, some local youth started again in the same way as they did in the beginning of the 80s. But of course, it's not the same persons now. Even if some of the older wants to be there, they are still holding some kind of distance towards it. So they are just helping them with some kind of competence and helping them with contacts and so on. So it's young people again and my students that are creating this small festival again. And it's called This is Hultsfred. It's a very good name, I think. Just as a response to the movement of the festival. So we see where that's going to end, but it was 1,500 people coming last summer, and we'll see what's happening this summer. All right, thank you for listening.
Okay, the program will continue with Juha Koivisto interviewing Jonas, but there's time for a couple of questions, so if you have any comments or questions for Jonas, please feel free to ask. Okay, we can do that later as well. It's over to Juha.
Okay, maybe we can start with...
Yes.
Is it working?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can start with defining certain key players in Swedish markets. You did mention a couple of times FKP, Scorpio and so on, and I think not necessarily everybody in this room are familiar what kind of company that is and what it is doing in Sweden and elsewhere in Europe.
As the thing is, FKP Scorpio is a German independent festival promoter, actually, and they own and runs 10 to 12, I think it's something like that. Festivals.
I think it's like 16 to 18 festivals.
It's that many, all right. It's a lot of festivals in Germany, and they are the biggest kind of independent festival promoter, at least in Germany, I think in Europe. And I think some years ago, when Hultsfred started going worse and worse, and they were a bit angry at Live Nation for, I mean, they are running the festival world in some kind of way. So they...
maybe we can say that Live Nation Sweden used to be known as Emma Telstar.
Yeah, that's right, Emma Telstar is Live Nation. And Live Nation is the biggest company in the world when it comes to promoting concerts and festivals. So, but there was a new company called AEG Live, and that's an American company, and they own a lot of sports arenas in the US. And they were entering actually the European festival market. So Rock Party saw a chance there to be allied with a new kind of actor in Sweden and not be that depending on Live Nation. And that might also have been one of the reasons why the festival failed later on. Because, to be honest, Live Nation dominates a lot when it comes to what kind of big acts you can book and when. So that's why, and what was the starting with the question, yes, it was FKP Scorpio, yes. And after this battle, in some kind of way,
Live Nation become very dominating, or dominated the festival scene in Sweden. And I think that AJ Live saw this. They saw the possibility to enter the Swedish market. And I know that...
and they did retire after 2 years or so.
Yeah, they did. But I think
so currently there is like 2 key festival players in Sweden. They are like Live Nation and
FKP Scorpio. And I think that's why that FKP Scorpio entered Sweden was, they saw the possibilities. And they saw, because they saw that it was just one main actor when AJ Live disappeared, and that was Live Nation. And they saw, I mean, the possibility was there. Hultsfred Festival went bankrupt, and it was still the strongest brand for festivals in Sweden, even it didn't have that kind of positive recognition anymore, but still it was a very known brand. And since it was bankrupt, they bought the brand very cheap, so they could start the festival, the Hultsfred Festival, and it was their way into Sweden in some kind of way.
Yeah, actually there was one story in leading Finnish newspaper, Helsingin Sanomat, last spring, and I think the title of the story was that there is a festival war going on in Sweden, and it was all about, you know, well, the main thing of that story was that there should have been like 2 different festivals on the same weekend in Sweden, Peace and Love, and a new festival promoted by FKP Scorpio called Provinssirock.
And that's the thing, because when FKP Scorpio has a lot of money, and they have lost a lot of money in Sweden on their festivals, but still they see the possibilities, I think, and they have a long-term kind of strategy to be part of the festival area, festival landscape, Sweden. So I think they always have had this kind of idea about having a really big festival somewhere in Sweden, and they saw that they couldn't build that in Hultsfred, and the 2 festivals they did there, they didn't go that well, so they just tried to find other ways of working with a festival. And they started the idea of doing this Provinssirock, and the main festival during these years was Peace and Love in Bjälesjön, and they saw that they were under a lot of pressure, and they had done the same kind of journey as Hultsfred actually. So I think they made a kind of evaluation and saw that, right, if we put our festival on the same date, they're gonna have to quit their festival, and that's what was happening. So it's a kind of a battle in Sweden. Been for the last 2-3 years. And Peace and Love is also a festival that reminds a lot about Hultsfred. It's a kind of voluntary, idealistic kind of music association behind it, and it's Hultsfred and it's Peace and Love, Arvika Festival, and the same Siesta. It's like several kind of festivals with this background that has disappeared in the last years. So now, behind the 10 biggest festivals in Sweden are Live Nation, FKP Scorpio, and one commercial kind of financial group called Stureplansgruppen that are behind the Summerburst, the house techno kind of festival that's going on in Stockholm and Gothenburg. So the landscape is changing a lot, or has done for the last year, from the traditional kind of music association-based music festivals towards strong music industry actors that are promoting the festivals.
So many other festivals have really pretty much the similar fate than Hultsfred Festival did have. There's still some association-driven festival left in Sweden. I think a couple of them.
Yeah, they are still, but they're not not that kind of big festival. Maybe in some way you can see Sweden Rock but that's still a business, more business-oriented promoter behind that festival. Sweden Rock is probably a metal festival in Sweden, and that's probably the festival that's mostly successful when it comes to profits in Sweden.
Oh yeah, you did mention a couple of reasons what did happen with Hultsfred Festival, but is there a general other type of thing that did happen? Did the world change? Did the market change? Did something happen with the booking policy of the acts or something like that?
I think it's a lot of, and that's also an important thing, that the music industry has changed. The digital kind of technical revolution has changed the world in some kind of way, and the revenues and so on. So a lot of, at least the big artists, are more keen on touring now. So it's a more supply of touring acts, at the same time as there are more festivals actually. And then, so the competition is harder, I think. And when it is this kind of interesting in Sweden, because they talk about the death of festivals in Sweden. That's the kind of journalist and media image of it. But if you look at the commercial, if you look at, I have a friend who did an article some month ago about the amount of visitors in the 10 biggest commercial festivals in Sweden from 2000 to 2014. And that's been from, I think it was 109,000 visitors in 2000. Now it's 268,000 in 2014. So the festival market is growing at the same time as a lot of festivals are disappearing. So it's a lot of changes going on. And one festival I forgot to mention that's doing well in Sweden is Way Out West in Gothenburg. It's a festival that's very much a Live Nation kind of festival. Even if they are not like promoting it, but that's important for Live Nation to set a lot of place, a lot of their upcoming artists.
Yeah, I used to cooperate with some of the bookers of the Hultsfred festivals, and you know, I think the whole environment did change. Generally, the general level of the artist fee did begin to rise quite rapidly about 5, 6, 7 years ago. And at the same time, you know, in Sweden, as you mentioned, Way Out of West and those new kind of festivals did, were quite successful, and they are owned by Luger, which is part of the Live Nation Sweden. So in a way, it gets very harder to try to book the right acts because you have to compete against Live Nation festivals and so on. There was lots of politics involved on these kind of things, and I think that was one of the reasons Hultsfred guys did turn to AGK Live, because they did feel that they had to compete against Live Nation Sweden, I think.
Yeah, that's the thing. And they were really pissed at Live Nation in different ways, and they tried to get support in the public opinion in Sweden by once again telling the story about Hultsfred, this kind of voluntary idealistic association with youngsters just loving music, and they used the kind of concept of being in this little tiny place, remote place, that the big music industry in Stockholm is trying to destroy and so on. So they tried to get some support for that.
Kind of
it didn't
David
really matter.
versus Goliath kind of thing.
Pardon?
David versus Goliath, you know. And I think one of the things you did mention, it was lovely story and about Hultsfred Festival, how it started to grow up and so on. But I think one of the reasons you are underlining in your book is that I think they were in a way like, you know, prisoners of their own success, because they did gain lots of money, and it might be a problematic for association to have lots of money, because you tend to spend it quite rapidly. And
yeah, it's been, if you look at what they have spent the money on sometimes, after 1988 I think that they earned quite a lot of money. Then they bought 10 small Volkswagen cars just to drive around in Hultsfred, and no one really knows why, because it would be better to buy a truck or buy a stage or something that they can use, but they had that money, and what should we do? Oh, we can have these cool cars and drive around and have our logotype on the car and so on. So that was, and the financial kind of strategy and guidelines has been sometimes not that good, and you can see the history of this kind of voluntary music association. The business was not the first thing. They realized that it has to be that later on, but some kind of way this kind of things has followed the association and the festival through the years. So when the Rock City concept started, there was a lot of projects actually, and I was part of them, so it's a little bit my fault too, I think. That was not that good. We should have been more concentrating on, all right, thinking more thoroughly, what should we do now with this money? Because we get a lot of funds from governmental institutions and foundations like the Foundation for Culture and Competence in Sweden. They created a big project called Creative Meeting Places, where they pinpointed places in Sweden, creative in this new kind of experience of creative industries. And Hultsfred was the one for popular music, and you have for film in Trollhättan and so on. So we got some money from them, but it's always easy to be very have senses about this afterwards in some kind of way. But I think there should have been other ways of doing things that would have been better.
Yeah, and in a way, in that kind of process, I think you lose the original spirit you have started at the same time. And in a way, I think festivals tend to have certain kind of life cycle, which is like from 5 to 7 years. And after that, you maybe have to like reinvent your festival and maybe change your audience or make certain kind of changes to keep it fresh.
And that's actually an interesting point, because, as I said, in the end, I can see in the internal discussions in the festival, among the festival promoters, that they say, like I said in '98, that all right, we are best in Sweden. We don't have to learn anything from anyone else. Everyone is following us. They are stealing or borrowing ideas from us and so on, doing like we do. Everyone wants to be a new Hultsfred. And at the same time, during these years, the root that they are rooted in Hultsfred is changing. The voluntaries working as with the festival are more and more people from outside, and they are changing this. They have this kind of act every year that were appealing to the locals in some kind of way. They are changing that. We had a music paper that went out with the newspaper, the local newspaper, that were talking about all the locals that were doing a lot of work during the festival. That disappeared, and it became part of one of the main newspapers instead in Sweden, Aftonbladet, and it was more about the bands playing and so on. So in some kind of way it changed from this very locally rooted festival to a more like a national festival placed in Hultsfred. And that could maybe be one of the reasons, not maybe why the festival are not successful anymore, but the way of rescuing the festival when it goes down might have been easier if it would still have been that route.
So you didn't lose, or the festival did lose the social capital it was having in the first place.
In a lot of ways. And I think that's also why the festival now is named This is Hultsfred, because this is our Hultsfred, this is our festival for the people in Hultsfred. Everyone is welcome to come here, but we're taking it back to what it was once, that it's a festival firstly, mostly for people and of people in Hultsfred. So I think that's a kind of a result of the changes that they are very key. It's very important now to promote it as a festival as a Hultsfred. This is Hultsfred.
Yeah. You did mention that you can't change the place of the festival, because I think the main point was that people get emotionally attached to certain place and they have memories and so on. And in a way, you were interviewed by Swedish newspapers after, it was announced that Hultsfred Festival will move to Sigtuna, and you did like you were quite right saying that it won't be the same and people doesn't follow that kind of thing because it will be totally different kind of ball game.
Yeah, sometimes I think I'm right, sometimes I think I'm wrong. I don't really know actually, because I know that people invest a lot of feelings in the ground, in the place itself, because it's a very bodily kind of experience being at the festival. Feeling hangover, body's aching everywhere, you're sleeping in a tent, you drink too much, it's a lot of feelings. You fall in love, you break up. I had a friend who didn't go to Roskilde for some years because 3 years in a row he broke up with a girl. So he said, I don't dare, because he was really in love with this girl, I don't dare take her to Roskilde Festival this year because it's gonna happen. Maybe, again, it's a lot of feelings in festivals, in Western, I think. So that's maybe one of the reasons why the place is very important as a place. But sometimes it seems like it doesn't really matter. You can just move the event from one place to another. People just reinvest their festival spirit in this new place. But you could see the result of when they moved the festival to Sigtuna and kept the name. It was no problem, I think, that they moved the festival. It was people who just felt sorry about that, but a lot of people got really angry when they kept the name. And that's the thing, because the Hultsfred festival is at this place, down at this lake, in this tiny place in the southeast of Sweden.
I think it was very real decision by FD-based Scorpio to have a Hultsfred festival in Sigtuna.
Yeah. So a lot of people the discussion was that, are they so stupid to keep the name? Doesn't they understand that people get really pissed off when they do like this? But I think they were really, it was kind of smart too, because they got a lot of media attention. So everyone knew that it's going to be a new Hultsfred festival. No one could miss that. So they, in some kind of way, they could take these kind of critical standpoints, because they knew that we get a lot of media attention. It's kind of a marketing thing too. And then I think the strategy was, the festival did really bad. They said it was about 10,000-12,000 visitors there, but I think I've heard of people working there with security that it was maybe 5,000-6,000, so they lost a lot of money. So we knew that they're not going to continue with the festival. But if they had continued with the festival, I'm quite sure that they would have changed the name for the second year. So I think it was kind of a strategy from Scorpio to do that.
Yeah, and I think one of the points in your presentation was that local community is integral part of the festival in good and bad in a small town. So in a way, the cultural capital and social capital were just possible to happen in a small place. It wouldn't been the same if that festival would have been in a different place or Stockholm or something like that. You can't create the same kind of spirit.
I think you can actually, but maybe it's kind of easier sometimes in a smaller place. It's not that much other things going on. You can mobilize a lot of more people maybe around things when it's a small place. But this kind of capital in some social capital, the version of the social capital, like the scientific concept, is that it could be two ways actually. It's one, I can't translate that now to, I can't remember how to translate it to English, but it's working like Hells Angels. That's very much a social capital. It's very internal. No one can really enter. If you have a motorbike, you can't call them and ask, can I be part of your association? That's not really the way how it works with Hells Angels. So they have a really strong commitment, strong kind of social capital amongst them. But it's internal very much. And then you have a version that's more extended outwards and including a lot of people around. So you can get a lot of input from other places, a lot of other persons, a lot of other perspectives and ways of doing things. So the combination of these two is the way how this is going to work good, I think. So when it becomes too much like internal, We know who we are better than anyone else. Our ideas have been working, we know how to do a festival, a little bit like Hultsfred worked for several years. Then it's really dangerous, then you're really out on a path that could really go to the bankruptcy, and I think that's one of the reasons why Hultsfred went bankrupt.
Let's talk about something about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And in a way, festivals are about myths. You are, you know, creating a certain kind of special atmosphere that something unique will happen over there. It's a strange, different world, a certain kind of escapism people are seeking for, I think. And the guys and pals in Hultsfred Festival did themselves try to create that kind of atmosphere themselves as a marketing tool. And I think in partly they were in a way trying to book certain kind of acts that are like Pete Doherty was. It was, you know, quite interesting booking because on those days he tended to cancel more shows to attend actually. So it was a risk that they were taking, but I think it was part of that myth building.
And these myths have always been very important for Hultsfred, and also, once again, balance is kind of a key word when it comes to Hultsfred. Balancing between these kind of artists that are, it's more about their image than about their music, because that's one of the reasons people say that Hultsfred lost against a lot of other, the competition against a lot of other festivals was that they were more keen at looking at, okay, this is a big party, we need this kind of artist that has a lot of media around them, and we lost the festival for the music lovers, the ones that are really interested in music. So that's also discussion, and I think that was a development when the competition started to be stronger when it comes against Hultsfred in different ways. They didn't really know where to market what the brand should be. Should it be this the biggest party for youngsters in Sweden every year, or should it be more the gathering for the music lovers of Sweden? So they tried to find a middle way there, I think.
And it was really hard to try to balance between those two kind of things. Art for kids or something for music lovers, it's really hard to have on the same place at the same time. So you have to compromise, and when you are compromising, you are always losing something at the same time, I think.
I have compiled and made reports 2 or 3 years of they did a questionnaire for the festival several years. They gave questionnaires to like 1,000 visitors about the music, why they were there, how much money they spent, how they traveled there, and a lot of questions. And one question was, of course, what kind of music and what kind of genres and so on. And there were things like, because Hultsfred was always booking a lot of hip-hop artists, but if you really look how, it was not the first choice for the visitors. They didn't go to the Hultsfred Festival because of the hip-hop acts. They were really glad that they were playing, and they were there, and they were loved to see them, but that was not the main reason why they went there. So that's the thing they might have missed a little bit. One year they tried to, balance between and find their way and find the image again, was that they tried to, right, we need some big metal acts because metal heads are very loyal, they spend a lot of money, stereotypes. But it's a little bit like that, especially if you look at Sweden Rock. They booked Pantera and Slayer, and I don't know the effect of this really, because Sweden Rock, that's where they go, metal fans.
But we were very happy to have Slayer at the same time once.
And one year they tried to, all right, now it's kind of popular with this kind of R&B, soul, kind of club music. So they booked Alicia Keys and another artist I can't remember now. And I think figured out that the audience for these artists, they don't necessarily travel to festivals.
Yeah, I think
So
if
that
you are
was also
listening to urban music, hip-hop or that kind of stuff, and especially Alicia Keys, you are not necessarily into camping.
No, that's right. And I think they figured that out. And I think that those kind of bookings, and that's why also, because it's been a very loving relationship for several years between the music press, music media in Sweden and Hultsfred. But when the competition started in the late 90s, especially beginning of 2000, this love affair faded in some kind of way, and they started writing about Hultsfred. Hultsfred is not that hot anymore. Hultsfred doesn't have this kind of fingertoppskänsla. Is it to say, you understand that word? Fingerspitzgefühl, I think is the word. And Hultsfred has lost this now. And since the audience for Hultsfred Festival is an average age around 18, 19, 20, it's very important for them to go to the coolest festival, not the festival that's pictured or imaged or written about as kind of a little bit like a loser festival, a festival for 14-year-olds that want to party for the first time and so on. So the media image changed too, and that's also kind of a reason I think why
I think part of the reason must have been that there were those quite new, trendy, urban city festivals in a way, like, well, plenty of festivals in Stockholm and way out of West in Gothenburg and so on. So
yeah, perhaps, and I think I don't want to be angry at journalists, but sometimes we can get the idea that they wouldn't risk writing anything bad about Hultsfred as long as Hultsfred was the main actor, I mean the only big festival, because they wanted to go there. But when it starts to become a lot of urban festivals, cooler festivals and so on, they want to stay home, go on these festivals, and then maybe the Hultsfred Festival has lost something. So the media image of Hultsfred, I think when I look at how they write about Hultsfred and how they write about the acts that they have booked, it could be like 1 year they write about, oh, this is a really good booking of this artist, but depending on who is booking the artist, they write a little bit different. So it could, I mean, change a little bit that when Hultsfred booked the artist, it's not that cool. Another festival booked the same artist, it's part of their fingerspetsgefühl, their fingertoppskänsla and so on. So
yesterday evening I did promise to ask just one question. And I have a little more than I did plan, but the question was that what will be the future of the festivals?
Future of the festival. I think, I don't know really, and I think that's the future that we don't know really, because often when people discuss, now every festival is disappearing now, it's too many festivals, and this is
markets are a little bit like oversaturated currently.
Yeah,
there are lots of
but
open air concerts and.
But that's also, I think, the image that it is too many festivals and oversaturated in some kind of way is also because we look at festivals not as other kind of products in some way. This is a market, this is a competition. Some lose, some win. It's always going to be like that. But we have another kind of image or feeling for festivals that they are, and that I think it's grounded in our view of an ideology around festivals as voluntary based, idealistic based. Like in Hultsfred, there was a lot of voluntaries going to Arvika, working for them, and a lot of people coming from Arvika working at our festival. But in some way we were competing against each other. So festivals helped each other. It's some kind of idealistic world too, and that's a view of a world that's idealistic, and that's, I think, also, you can see that in the discussions. So the future is, I think it's going to.
Still in Sweden into camping, or is it like old-fashioned and so on? Are camping festivals still popular in Sweden?
In some way you can say.
Urban festival taking more place?
In some way you can say that they are disappearing, But on the other hand, you have Sweden-Rock, that's one of the best, biggest festival and doing really well when it comes to profits and so on. That's the camping festival. But I think the days of these kind of idealistic music associations running the big main festivals in Sweden, those days are over, I think. There's still going to be a lot of festivals, and it's going to pop up a lot of new festivals, run the same way as Hultsfred started and so on. But I don't think they're going to be that big again, and they're not going to dominate the market. That's going to be the big city festivals, the festivals with Live Nation behind them, or a strong local support in the city, like the city council and a lot of strong companies and so on. So I think it's going to be a lot, still going to be a lot of small festivals, but not the really big ones.
Yeah, so in a way, associations can't compete against big international players, and in a way, the game has gone more harsh. It's more difficult to book certain acts, which are maybe.
No, I don't think. In some way, maybe if you have this genre like Sweden-Rock, then, but otherwise, I don't think. I think it's going to be more and more dominated by, for instance, Live Nation and FKP Scorpio, maybe other, like this Stureplansgruppen that's running in the summer burst. I think they're going to do other kind of festivals later on. So, and in some way, they don't differ that much, maybe, the promoters. I mean, Hultsfred had his history in this voluntary kind of idealistic association, but at the same time, it was run like a business, like every other music industry company in the live music sector.
Does the audience care who is organizing the festival? Does that matter anymore?
No, I don't. Actually, I don't think so, and I don't think. When I was doing interviews with festival visitors in Hultsfred, I asked them, what do you know about Hultsfred? Oh, is there a place here? Is this? They didn't know anything. They walk from the festival area into the kind of town, and they buy noodles, a loaf of bread, cheese on this kind of räkost-tuber, and they take out some money, they buy beer on Systembolaget, and that's what they know about Hultsfred, more or less. And they know there's an association called Rock Party running the festival, but they don't really care about if it's them or Live Nation, I think. What they care about is that you can't move the place, move the festival and change the name of these kind of things, but who is behind it? I think it's a few people that... Some people say, all right, they said, I'm never going to go to this new Hultsfred festival when they moved it from Hultsfred, but maybe then, that band is going to play, I think I have to change my mind. That's how it works, I think.
Yeah.
So.
We have still a couple of minutes of time, and there's some time for questions coming from the audience, or is there any comments?
Huudanko? Should I just shout?
So I'll bring the microphone here.
You can join us on stage.
All right. Oh, finally. Yeah, just out of curiosity, I was thinking, like, what is your personal perception on This Is Hultsfred? Do you think that it will grow? Or do you believe that it will grow and get a second chance and be successful? Or you said that 1,500 people already came last summer, and now we just have to kind of see for this summer. But what do you think?
That's a very interesting question, and that's the thing that we have discussed in Hultsfred. And I am one. I think I am. I think I'm one of the ones that think that it shouldn't be much bigger than 5,000–6,000. and keep it there in some kind of way. Because I think some people think, oh, now we start again, we're going to grow, we're going to be big in Sweden, the biggest festival in Sweden again. But I don't think we can do that journey one time more. I think it should be there somewhere and be kept in some kind of way very local when it comes to the people doing festival. Because over the years, everyone locally working with a festival, they have a lot of skills and competence when it comes to building festivals and do festivals, and they have a big network. So it's very easy to make a festival in Hultsfred, make it running, and then keep it, I think, around 5,000–6,000 something there. Because then we don't need to have a competition. It's a lot of things that don't, because more money, it's a bigger risk. So if you have a festival around 5,000–6,000, you can really, a bad year then is not that crucial when it comes to finance.
And I think that would also actually like strengthen the community aspect of the whole thing.
Yeah, I
Just
think
to
so
keep
too.
it there.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And second question.
Hi. Thinking about what happened in Sweden with Hultsfred and the festival industry overall, and thinking about what's happening now in Finland, I think we could be facing the same situation. Of course, the headliner prices are going high up in the sky, and Live Nation is already here. I don't know if FKP Scorpio is interested in our distant small market, but for sure if they're coming with money and an aggressive approach. So there are few these Finnish, in my opinion, Finnish traditional festivals that are facing this kind of like same situation. They're under the pressure of this new environment and changings in the industry. So, and they're kind of like losing this leading traditional place in the festival industry. So what could we learn? Is there something that if you could go back time like 10 years and maybe do some really radical changes, what would they be like if you could like change the way, take a new course? Could you have saved the festival if you could go back?
Yeah, I think so. As I said, the strategy was to invest the money in other activities, and that's been very successful. Some parts we have this music and event management program, the only university level program for people entering the music industry in Hultsfred. That wouldn't have been there if they had the strategy of just doing the festival. So, but I think if I could go back in time, I would hire people that are very good at financial things and economy, to be very careful with your money and invest and grow slowly, because for during some years when it was really successful in Hultsfred, everyone was running in different directions, doing a lot of funny things that everyone loved. Oh, we can do that, to do that. Just go was one kind of mantra or kind of concept that was used. Just do it. And I think you should be really strategic, think a lot, be careful, grow slowly, and that kind of, and decide. You don't have to compete with everyone. You don't have to be the biggest festival in Finland or in the world, but think very thoroughly on what kind of level you want to be on, and so on. So that's what I think. So more strategic and more careful with the money.
Thank you for your nice advice. I will keep that in mind. Unfortunately, the time is running up. So yet again, big hand for Jonas. Lovely presentation and